The O Cannabis Conference and Expo returns to Toronto June 1st through the 3rd, and there's still some good booth locations available. This exciting event is free for cannabis retailers and will feature Tommy Chong receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award at the O Cannabis Industry Awards. For more information about exhibiting or to register to attend, go to ocannabis.com. That's OCANNABIZ.com. Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, capital markets analyst and host of your Cannabis Business Podcast. With us today, Ali Fakhri and Adelia Carillo, both with EventHi. Thanks for being on the podcast, you guys.
Good job, Josh.
Appreciate you guys being with us. For those who haven't heard of EventHi, Ali, let's start with you. What is it, and how'd you get involved?
Yeah, EventHi is an online event registration platform that caters to the cannabis industry. We got started in 2017, catering specifically to event organizers who were having issues with ticketing and sponsorship processing. So we wanted to build a platform that can allow event creators, event organizers to feel comfortable and not have to worry about getting shut down because having a cannabis-related event, and to have really a platform that can sell tickets, promote, market, and just have an ecosystem that's built specifically for them. So we launched the company in 2018, January 1st, and it's been great ever since. It's kind of a unique story because we got into space in the cannabis industry through events. The first thing to meet people in the industry was really networking, going to different events, everything from MJ Biz and you name it. So eventually we kind of, from being attendees at events, we started hosting our own events, and from there kind of transformed to the idea of EventHi because we started noticing as event organizers and other people that we were in that culture, in that network, were having the same issues we were, and basically we were getting kicked off of Eventbrite and Ticketmaster and all these different other platforms. So we just kind of figured enough is enough, and we really wanted to solve this problem, and it was a lot of work to really solve it because the biggest issue was the banking and processing these tickets online legally. So we had to tackle that huge hurdle, which we did, and we're proud that we did. And we're one of the few companies that have called an MRB bank account, a marijuana-related business account, that allows us to transact tickets legally online and sponsorships. And we formed the company. We started 2018 with a private beta, and we got quick traction and kind of grew the company from there.
That's so much just packed into that right there. So let's unpack that a little bit. Events are crazy. So this poster here was with Cliff Robinson, previously with the NBA, just passed away, unfortunately, from cancer. Yeah. And when I held the Blazers versus Nuggets event, it was Portland's last event at the Moda Center when they played the Denver Nuggets. So we did a cannabis event.
Oh, nice.
And this is 2016. So really early on, but it was incredibly difficult to get people to hear about it. So you had Meetup and that was okay. But for social media, you had Instagram still shutting people down, and Facebook. Eventbrite didn't really like it. So it was packed, but people didn't really get to hear about it. And so I wish EventHi was around when we did the Blazers versus Nuggets event, but not easy. I got out of catering and event planning because that wasn't my thing. I wanted to do the Seattle Super Chronic Cafe, but Washington put a felony on maintaining and operating a marijuana lounge, which still exists today, if you can believe that.
Wow.
So my pivot was into events, and it's very, very challenging, very difficult, which is why I got out.
It's very difficult.
I had to pivot to stay relevant, and I just did consulting, and then that pivoted into other things, and now I'm doing my own thing. But you guys are still in it, and you have dealt with a lot of stuff. So unpacking some of the difficulties that you encountered with social media, can you kind of explain how you're even able to get EventHi even out? How do people even hear about it with social media shut and everything down?
Yeah, I mean, with us, to be honest with you, it was kind of a word of mouth. It was a natural kind of a process because we started working with a few event organizers that kind of spread the word for us. So the unique thing about our business model was when you hosted an event through our platform, you were going to share the link, on your social media, on email blast. So people were, going to our website organically by, promoters promoting their events that are on a platform. So when people were going in to buy a ticket, they were also browsing other events, and they were seeing the opportunity they can create an event as well. So the platform grew organically without really having a marketing budget, especially early on when we were starting the company. And it was just really word of mouth. These event organizers, that's what they do. They're promoters. So they have to promote, their event pages, and they were bringing traffic to the platform, and it made it easier. And also for the attendees, when they purchase a ticket, they usually share, I just bought a ticket to this event. So our link was kind of being really everywhere. Every Instagram, page you see, purchase tickets, click on the link right here. So it's kind of exciting to see that kind of organic growth. But eventually, as we grew the company and we brought in, Adelia as our CMO, we kind of wanted a different strategy and different kind of thinking of how we can interact with these customers and kind of really increase, our user base, based off our market strategy, and kind of really just looking at it more of a same way we kind of started the company, as that, word of mouth, but we kind of just, enhanced a little bit more, added more content, added more things to allow, different kind of, customers to come on board. Adelia, I don't know if you want to maybe, touch point on any of that as well.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing, was what I loved. It was an organic reach in the beginning when I saw EventHi starting to grow. And then join the team, I really wanted to focus on educating event hosts, how they can host whether their state has certain requirements and licenses. California specifically did. So we started diving in and trying to teach all the different event hosts that were in California, how they could host a compliant event. We started creating different articles state by state on how to get into the cannabis industry as an event planner. Then we started doing interviews with event hosts, giving them a platform. So that's the thing too. In the beginning, they were promoting us, and now that it's kind of come full circle and we've been able to grow to over 43 different states, we're now offering them what we can in return, giving them promotion and doing what we can to enhance their exposure through our network now that we've been able to grow. So there's just been a variety of different changes. We have weekly newsletters that go out. We have newsletters that go out monthly to event hosts to educate them. We also have one that's a sponsorship newsletter, again, that creates content that can educate event hosts or sponsors on why it's important to sponsor an event.
Can you just explain to the audience your background a little bit too? Because this isn't your first rodeo. We've been connected on LinkedIn and social media for a couple of years now. And so what were you doing before EventHi? How did you get into the industry?
Yeah, so before EventHi, and even getting into the industry, I look at myself first, cannabis from a patient perspective. That's really what brought me back to this plant, was the patient role and how it helped me personally. I had a corporate career. I was in the consumer electronic industry, but during those health moments in my life, I ended up questioning what I was doing and what I wanted to do. So I started studying more about the plant, which led to my first company in the cannabis industry called Direct Cannabis Network. I felt that I could really build a bridge between corporate and entrepreneurship, and really make sure we didn't lose that heart that was going to come in as more corporate and businesses came in. So we highlighted startups, tech, entrepreneurs, and shared their why. But that was the thing. What I loved is that it taught me so much on how to really scale and build a company, with launching a company like DCN. I was out everywhere. I was doing I was trying to get on any podcast that I could, trying to apply for every speaking opportunity I could. And then again, kind of similar to EventHi, which I thought was great, was that the same thing. You highlight an entrepreneur, they're going to share that to their network. They're going to share that article link. And so there were some similarities when I came into EventHi and how they were marketing themselves. And then I looked at ways that I was able to scale DCN to become that global network and utilize that and bring that to the team over here at EventHi.
There's been some progression with events, with social media not shutting down as many accounts. So we've seen some progression over the years. But I'm wondering, with the marijuana related businesses, Ali, how did that impact your business and availability to operate, if not to expand and stay in business? How did it benefit you? And do you feel like that was an advantage over other companies?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely looked at it, after, getting everything and going through all the hoops, we see it now as an advantage. But early on when we were building, the code and actually building the platform with my co-founders, we didn't see ourselves as a cannabis company because we weren't selling cannabis through our platform. It was just events and tickets. So we really didn't have any worries about, being compliant with banking or processing companies because we just figured we're doing events. But eventually, as we started digging more and more, we realized that these platforms like Eventbrite and Meetup and any platform, really, free event or paid event, does not matter. If it's on their platform, they consider it as a prohibited event, prohibited merchant, and a prohibited transaction because of they have to obey by their financial institutions and how they process tickets for all their events. So for us was difficult to find a bank that was willing to work with us as a cannabis software company. Again, we were doing events, so we were more on the less risky than if we were selling at a dispensary or anything like that. But eventually, as we started building the platform, we figured that if we can team up with a bank that would have a transparent relationship with us, would allow us to transact and secure these payments that are coming through our platform to our customers without any worry or having the fear of us getting shut down, which in return will shut our customers down. So we basically knocked on every bank's door. Everybody, you tell them you're a software company, a startup, they would love to give you an application, fill it out. The second you say cannabis, sorry, we can't help you. Here's a door. So we eventually found a bank called Partner Colorado Credit Union. They have a program called Safe Harbor Private Bank, which is a DBA of the actual bank that only deals with MRBs or CRBs, cannabis-related businesses or marijuana-related businesses. And we kind of really hit it off with the CEO and had a really good relationship and spoke on different panels, specifically on cannabis banking. And eventually we were one of the first companies to obtain an MRB bank account back in 2017. I want to say maybe 2 months before we launched the platform. It was a nail biter because we didn't, without the payment process and secure, we couldn't just use PayPal, we couldn't use Stripe because they could shut us down with any warning. So that was really where everything kind of started, and started seeing the advantage of that we had, that majority of our customers were coming in, getting shut down from Eventbrite or other platform to our platform. We were calling them refugees because they had nowhere to go. They were frustrated, and it was because this is their business. This is what they do. So eventually started kind of really dawning on us that this is not just a problem that we were having. This is something that everybody was having, and allowed us to really have a leg up on a lot of other event platforms.
I wanted to chime in though. I think the one thing, not only was it the hard work to obtain this account, it's still a lot of hard work to keep it. There's a lot of due diligence factors that I had no idea went beyond this. It's not just, okay, now we built this relationship with the bank. Like there's auditing every quarter. There's due diligence that we have to follow. Like it's not easy to keep these. It takes like a full-time job just to keep maintain this kind of bank account, which is so baffling to me, because as Ali mentioned in the beginning, when they thought, we're not touching the plant, we're selling tickets and sponsorships. Why do we have to go through this process? But it does take a lot to kind of maintain these kind of accounts, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I don't think people in this industry understand the level of compliance. I worked for a brokerage firm, and when I started, it was this teeny little tech company, and it had one person working in compliance. And no one wanted to talk to her. And it was because she was so overworked. You'd wait till she had her coffee or whatever. And then if you really had a question, you'd go and talk to her after she had her coffee. So then once Capital One bought us, that one person job went to like 15 people or whatever. And all of these cannabis companies that are filing IPOs have no idea just about the compliance and regulations that they're going to have once they make it into the real world, as we'll call it.
Very true.
So yeah, it's very interesting.
The bank looks at it as a high, risk industry, and that's the issue here, and especially as federally illegal, that is even bigger, and that's the wall. But that's the thing that we really kind of discovered, that it is possible. I know a lot of companies in the space having difficulties getting shut down, and the lighter side of this, but there is banks out there that do these programs, and I feel like it's just, if you do your homework, you read, a few hundreds of white papers, you eventually figure out the way to do this, and it is possible. But unfortunately, until things get, federally legalized, we're always going to be a high risk industry.
Right. Yeah, and hopefully that'll be some kind of a normalization when it does get legalized. And speaking of going back to normal, pre-pandemic was great. We went to the MJ BizCon in 2019 in December, and that was kind of the last event that I went to. There's some local ones in Oregon, but it's been
You didn't go to the
over a
Emerald
year.
Cup afterwards?
What's that?
You didn't go to the Emerald Cup afterwards?
You know what? I have
It was
stayed
like the
away.
next day.
I haven't, man. I've stayed away from California. I find that market to be incredibly intimidating.
It is.
Because if I dive into California, like I'm all in, like I'm not going to go down there and just meet one client and be okay with that. Being the fifth largest economy in the world,
True.
like I just have stayed away from California because it intimidates me. I need like 3 other, of me's in order to like, tackle that market. It's huge. How do you guys tackle California? There's a lot going on. They have their micro markets. There's, pre-pandemic, you could have your own event, but now that you're maybe working on bandwidth, how do you manage all of these accounts and all of these new markets with, Montana, Missouri, Arizona, New Jersey, and then you've got Vermont that's broke and Kentucky and New York's got FOMO. Everyone seems to be pulling at you wanting to have an online event. How was that different than pre-pandemic, and how are you guys moving into this post-pandemic world?
So basically, when we started, before the pandemic kind of really hit, we were doing amazing as a startup. We were growing, faster than we can, see on paper. So for us, it was an amazing traction. The company was moving in the right direction. Everything was really kind of on our side. We even won the best tech company in 2019 at the Cannabis Award in Vegas. So we were, excited, leaving 2019 on a high note. And when the pandemic hit, it really kind of changed our entire, perspective on, events and how we should operate as a company, because our platform was built, to connect people offline, not online, So everything we've done, the past 2 years, from code to features to, promoting marketing, everything was to really promote the outside, of human connection, face to face. So when that happened, it really kind of hit us hard, because we saw, I want to say, at least 75% to 80% drop in our revenue. So it was a drastic change. It was a punch in the gut, to be honest with you. I remember having a meeting with the entire team and kind of really explaining to them that this could be something that could end the company. But we were all of us smart enough to really sit and pivot and see what we have and the network we've built with event organizers. And we just started slowly converting, these event organizers to online events. We converted our platform to, work with online events, our marketing, our strategy, everything really kind of transformed to, allow these event organizers to host some of these online events. Because a lot of them, they were comfortable with what they were doing in person. But when it came to hosting events online, they were far as Zoom, they knew a little bit about Zoom, how to use Zoom, but, with us, and we're kind of a very tech savvy, we teamed up with different platforms that we allowed our customers to use through our portals, and also offered services to allow them to host these events with our team in the background. So they would hire us to do event, production virtually. And it really kind of opened the door and allowed us to have a whole new revenue channel, to be honest with you, which we didn't have, beginning of last year. But also it gave us kind of another perspective of seeing the importance of, that communication, if it's online or in person, and how important it is, because we started getting events. I mean, before 2020, we were only in the US. After 2020, we actually expanded to 5 other countries. So we started working in Israel and Canada and Spain. So it was really interesting to us how that change happened, But also, I mean, Adelia, if you want to maybe touch base on the marketing and how that completely changed and how we,
Yeah. So, as Ali mentioned, our team, we're so thankful for the team. Everybody got together after that, because it was the hardest thing. We really had to look at ourselves and look to our team members and let them know this, like Ali said, this could make or break. But we pivoted to the approach of virtual events. And what we did really focus first was just reaching out to all of our event hosts and just communicating them through the process and saying, this is what we think, moving towards virtual events. This is how we're going to help you, starting to educate again on how to host virtual events, offering the virtual event production services. So that was a new tool that we started offering. We would handle behind the scenes, because as event hosts, they're so used to in-person events. Now trying to learn some new technology was going to be a whole nother avenue. However, what I saw with that was you had a variety of event hosts who were ready. They were ready to pivot, and they jumped on it. They started hosting these virtual events. But then we had the other half that was like, no, you know what, I'm just going to take the next couple months off, because everybody assumed this was something that we would get over with pretty quickly. Obviously that changed. And now we're starting to see those individuals being more interested in virtual events. So it's almost about a year after, and now they're starting to be more open, but they're also looking now at the hybrid component. So from a perspective of what you were saying in, how did we kind of stay relevant and kind of, keep growing at that approach. The virtual event productions did open the door to new event hosts, even though we had quite a few that weren't ready to move forward with that kind of like model. It did, that word of mouth and seeing other event organizers move to virtual led to new introductions. So it opened up a new revenue model, but it still had its ways in growing the company a little bit. Even though the business model, like we said, it's not fully back to what it was for us, but we have some good little things coming in.
That's awesome. What's one of the more memorable events you've been to, either the ones that you've hosted through EventHi or just early on in the industry? Is there an event that sticks out in your mind as memorable for either being a complete shit show or just one of your favorites?
I'm going to say mine before his, because he's going to say Emerald Cup, and I'm going to say Emerald Cup.
I would have to say, so we were still working, trying to work with Tim Blake and their team to, have the Emerald Cup on our platform. But definitely Emerald Cup would be one of the top. But one of the ones that we did work with directly on our platform that, used our software, Meadowlands. I don't know if you've heard of that one. So Meadow is a software company. They do, I believe, a POS system. And they host this event once a year called Meadowland. That's just literally a camping trip for the industry, and it's industry specific. It's really interesting because they have, everybody from like Laurie Ajak and, people come and speak, but at the same time, you're camping with a bunch of industry, people. I believe it's a 3-day event. And it was an amazing experience, to be honest with you, because they had, at night they had like a disco club with headphones, but there's no music. So everybody's dancing.
Silent disco.
Yeah. So it was really interesting kind of being part of it. And, we had French Cannoli doing, hash bar and all that.
Man.
Yeah, it was just an amazing experience. So that would be for me for sure for, an event that we work with directly.
That sounds
one
cool.
to kind of go into, that's not one of my favorites, but to add to the Meadowlands part too, what was really cool on that perspective is nobody's wearing their at a conference, they're going to have their name tag or their logo or some sort of branding. At Meadowlands, you didn't know who was who. And so I think that really allowed for authentic connections and conversations to happen, because sometimes, you can see someone that, is really, really, let's say, big in the industry, and it can be intimidating. There, it was just everybody was able to just be on the same level and just talk and communicate. So that's just one I wanted to add. But outside of the Emerald Cup, I love the different kinds of dinners that are happening. I know some things have changed and some states have some compliancy things that they've now incorporated, but I love that these chefs are starting to look at fine dining and giving these experiences in general. It's probably because I love food in general too, so that's why. But in regards to kind of like shit shows, I haven't been to one specifically, but you hear through the grapevines, you just hear of just maybe people didn't have enough staff and things kind of got out of control, especially if they're more consumption type events. It's not the same as when you have alcohol though. It's not that kind of crazy thing. It's just like either too much capacity and not enough, not enough people to staff it, or not enough trash cans, little things like that you're like, oh, these are things that people can hopefully learn from really quickly,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am looking forward to more chefs coming out. We have a felony on maintaining and operating a marijuana lounge here, so you can't do cannabis cafes or anything like that.
I heard about that.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Yeah.
But yeah, as soon as we can do that and open the window or the soul to the community where you can kind of have that engagement, there's a really awesome chef. If you, next time you guys are in Seattle, Chef Eric Rivera, with Addo, ADDO, a very unique restaurant where you have to actually make reservations. You can't just pop in. So there may only be one other couple with you eating. And he might surprise you because he'll look on social media and he'd be like, "Oh, you're interested in that? Maybe that's your dessert." And so all of a sudden you might get this thing and you're like, "Is this okay?" So anyways, really cool. Looking forward to the same thing that you guys are talking about, all these events and in-person things. I got to get down there to the Emerald Cup. Maybe you guys can show me around when I get down there. So yeah, what are you guys looking forward to as we kind of wrap this up? What's the events that you guys are going to be putting on either this year or next year? Hopefully things open up next year, but what are some events that you guys are putting on that you're looking forward to for the remaining of 2021?
So to be honest with you, I mean, for us, the events that our clients put on, that's what we look forward to. But as of now, a lot of things are kind of still being in limbo. So we're not seeing that many, planning happening. But we're hoping, things will open up again, like Kushtalk Festival, Secret Sesh, some of these, bigger festival consumption events, licensed events. We're hoping these kind of, roll back soon. I'm guessing, maybe third quarter, fourth quarter, because what's happening with, the pandemic. Everything is kind of on limbo, and a lot of these organizers, pay a lot of money up front to secure venues and, such things as security and all that. So we're kind of really just, excited just to be in the space and just kind of really see things, slowly open up because we truly believe that, things will get 10 times better. More people want to go out and spend money and go to events and travel and go to lounges. So we're really kind of more excited about, the future of just in sense of, travel, just in general, people leaving the house and actually doing things. And that's kind of what we're looking for. We really want to see that whole, comeback of, more events and, hopefully more lounges to open up, more things to do. And that's kind of what we're looking for, to be honest with you, just seeing that transformation happen, specifically, in the cannabis tourism event space. And we want to kind of really be part of it and, just and see how that all folds out.
I think it's happening already. There's a lot of golf tournaments I've seen from, and then they've expanded. So Washington, I saw has one coming up, and then Arizona, they've got one. Colorado, I think Illinois. So you can't necessarily have like indoor consumption events, but maybe we can get creative and just do golfing events and hang out. One of the favorite events I went to was in 2016, I think. Seems like a lifetime ago, but it was this golf tournament and it took about 6.5 hours. The average round of golf is about 4 hours and 20 minutes. So it was about 6.5 hours, but totally worth it because there was like somebody on every hole giving you a dab or a ball.
Oh my God, that sounds fun.
Or it was phenomenal. It was in Oregon and I would do that in a heartbeat.
I believe David Tran from Field Child Events, they're doing a golf tournament on 420, I think.
Oh, he didn't mention that. He was just on the podcast earlier this week. But I wasn't sure. Yeah, I would definitely attend.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he does amazing events.
Yeah, I love Dave. He's a fun guy to have.
Definitely.
Which is why he was on the Talking Hedge earlier. He's a funny dude.
He is. He's an amazing guy.
I do want to mention a couple of things. Although we don't normally host events, we before COVID we were hosting just community events to give back to the communities. Beach cleanups, giving care packages to those in need, and so that kind of pivoted into a virtual event called High Day. We may be doing another one this year called High Day 2021. But outside of that too, we joined Clubhouse. We also have the Future of Cannabis events where we talk to event hosts as well on there each week. So again, just ways that we can continue to educate, bring the event host and tourism community together, because events aren't going to be the same right away overnight. So if we can all kind of build a guidelines of how to do it and ways to move forward successfully, again, as Ali was saying, that we can get there quicker to that place where the event and tourism industry will have its bounce back.
Yeah, you guys are in the epicenter, 5th largest economy in the world, one of the older cultures of cannabis. And so you guys are really in the hotbed epicenter of it all. So I'm excited to continue to follow you guys and watch and see the progression. Anything that I missed, anything I left out, anything you'd like to plug or, express your excitement for, or anything else at this time?
I would love to give a shout out to all of our users. They're, without them, we couldn't be here. So, all these event organizers that, dealt with 2020 and 2021, much love to them, and, the strength of, keeping up and, sticking to what they do. So we want to give a big shout out to our user base.
Shout out EventHi users. We're not going to include you in the show notes because there's too many of you. Anything else? Any other plugs? Like, where can they find you on social media? What's your website? What's all that stuff? Plug it. Yeah,
they can to check out the EventHi marketplace. Go to www.eventhi, like hi hello.io. On Instagram, it's at eventhi.io. Twitter is at EventHi_IO. So you can literally just put that up there. We also have some cannabis related groups worldwide on Facebook that just has a bunch of different people all over the world who are talking about cannabis events. And so, yeah, those are all the different ways you can find EventHi and reach out to us. We're always here to provide any feedback or insight to hosting cannabis events. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. And we'll include a lot of the show notes and social media links in the description. So I think with that, anything else?
No, that'll be it. Cool. I do gotta recommend to everybody to subscribe to the channel, because I subscribed to your YouTube channel today. So I watched the movie. Yeah, so I gotta recommend that. I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. So keep it up.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I didn't want to. I went to Puerto Rico. I learned about the advantages of doing business in Puerto Rico. And I was like, you know what? I got to talk to some people on a podcast about that. And they were like, you know what? That is way too nerdy for me. So no. And I was like, I'm just going to start my own then. I'm going to talk about Puerto Rico. So here we are. If you're not in Puerto Rico, you should do business in Puerto Rico. It's the only place in the world that you're not going to be taxed at a federal tax rate. And EventHi, you guys should look at a bilingual call center in Puerto Rico, have all your sales through there, and not pay 20% to the government, and you can save a ton of money.
Interesting. We're looking at Mexico right now
for a whole bunch more financial advice if you want.
Yeah. Perfect. I appreciate it.
No, actually, that's not financial advice. I can't even say that. So just anything I say.
Just discard it.
All right. I think with that, we're going to roll this one up. I want to thank my guest, Ali Fakhri. He is the founder and CEO of EventHi. And there's also Adelia Carillo. She's the chief marketing officer for EventHi, right?
Chief marketing officer. Yes. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. I think I got all of that right. That's good. All right. And we'll also plug you guys, your LinkedIn connections, and so people can get a hold of you through there.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is The Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't. And I'm out. Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and check out these other videos that we've got.
Hi, it's Justin Benton, host of the Miracle Plant Podcast, where we discuss this miracle plant that goes by so many names and how it's helping people in so many extraordinary ways. So if you love this plant and you want to hear a story that tugs on those heartstrings and learn more about this plant, then head on over to the Miracle Plant Podcast. You'll be glad you did.